The game is mine. The game is mine. The game is mine.
All right, we back. Playa T, that's me. Now, like I said at the onset of the show, we got a guest right now, real courageous. A woman coming on board to tell her story. We're ecstatic that she's here to help the next individual. You know, she survived domestic violence. Had to do a little time in the penitentiary. Got out early like she was supposed to. What y'all know about Runako Stroud? Oh! Yeah, we ain't no punks around here. Nope, we stand up for ourselves. You know, and we ain't gonna let nobody tear us down for standing up for ourselves either. You know? Because we're not here to put on this world to be treated wrong and abused. We're not. Right?
I'm here to be used, but not abused.
Yeah, I'm here to be used by the right individuals. You know, they can use me, I can use them, but I'm not here to be abused.
Absolutely.
But, Runako, you had to learn that.
I learned the hard way.
Learned the hard way.
Kind of hard-headed growing up.
Well, let's take it back, kind of hard-headed growing up. How long have you been hard-headed? Have you been hard-headed since you was about 7, 8, 9?
I'm still hard-headed.
You're still hard-headed.
At times. At times, yeah.
You done got some maturity with it now.
Yeah.
You know when to be hard-headed.
Yeah, I got.
And sometimes you gotta be hard-headed.
It's selective.
Selective.
Yeah. Like sight, hearing,
Right.
selective.
Did you come from a family you had both parents?
Both of my parents were there. My mother was a cosmetologist. My father was a fireman in Pittsburgh. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh.
So that's where you got the looks from.
Whatever. We can step in a dark alley.
We ain't gonna get on the Steelers right now, you know what I'm saying? We can hit somebody upside the head with a helmet later on or something.
Haters need jobs too.
Haters need jobs too. No, okay, so you had both parents in the home. Mom was a cosmetologist.
And model, yeah.
And a model.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what, a retail model or runway model? Or?
Back then it was J.C. Penney's, Kaufman's, and it was easy to get into.
Did you stand in her shoes in the mirror and put the makeup on?
Oh, I've been doing my own makeup since I was like 8 years old.
Since you were 8 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You were told you were this princess and all of this coming out?
I was my daddy's baby.
You was your daddy's baby. And all right. So now coming up, how did you start getting into being more of a hardhead, you know?
Because I was my dad's only girl. I was the baby girl of the house, you know, so I've always got.
How many of the children?
It was me and my brother, of course, with my mom.
Okay.
You know, but then my dad did his own thing
Rolling
on the side.
Stone.
There it is.
Okay. You had a whole squad, basketball team?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Are you close with your brothers and sisters?
No.
Were you close then?
Yeah. When I finally met my stepsisters and brothers and stuff, yeah.
How old were you when you first met them?
I might have been like 9. Yeah, it could have been like.
How did that affect you? You got brothers and sisters not by your mom.
It was the norm. This is what people did. You know.
So it really didn't affect you.
Secrets come to the table. It was natural.
So you grew up kind of fast?
Not really. Our household was kind of shut in, like with the domestic violence with my mom and dad. You know.
There was domestic violence between your mom and dad?
That's what separated them.
And you were around 8 or 9 when it happened?
Yeah, and back then everything was keep it in the house, don't put our business in the streets, you know.
But you would go to school wearing those emotional wounds.
I didn't pay attention to it. You know,
so you got kind of numb to it?
Not in the beginning, you know what I mean, until I actually seen it for myself. Or for instance, I put it inside my book about how me and my mother wound up leaving, and I'm thinking it was a vacation, and here it is, it was a battered women's shelter. You know, and I didn't find it out until I was 11, 12.
So your mom didn't really put her problems and troubles on you.
But she was strong. She knew when it's enough is enough. You know.
She got the courage enough to want to take you to the shelter.
Yeah, and she always told me never let a man dog you like that.
So how did it come? How did she come to tell you what was really going on? You thought it was this vacation, you know, and it was actually getting away from your father who was abusing your mom.
It was always there as a thought, like I knew this stuff was going on or went on when I was younger, but it really didn't kick in until I'm 19 years old in North Philly going through abuse myself.
Okay, but before the abuse in Philly, your own personal self, how did you feel about your father at the time?
It's hard to say. Once my mom put him out, it was like out of sight, out of mind. I hadn't seen my dad for 9 years after that.
Did she begin to talk about her experience with your dad once she put him out? Now that he's not there and you got more room to talk with less argue back and fighting back and swinging back, you know?
Well, I get emotional.
It's okay. We all been through some things and seen some stuff.
Right. With everything that my mother went through, you know, my recollection of it is because I looked so much like my father, she turned to drinking, and with that drinking, she mentally abused me. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it was like we never really got to the core of it. We just knew we didn't get along. You know what I mean?
So were you living at that period of time? Were you living with a disdain for not only your dad now but your mom too?
I left home at 16.
Left home at 16. That's why we leave home. We wondering why these young girls out. You never know what they going through, you know. And then y'all run into them shark dudes out there that don't care what you've been through. They just want to, you know.
I went straight out there looking for love in all the wrong places.
In all the wrong places. What you were looking for men to protect you, provide for? What were you looking for?
I was just looking for somebody to love me, you know. But I ended up running into crack cocaine. That became my best friend.
The cocaine addiction.
16.
Did it go straight there? Was any gateway things going on?
I was already doing what my mom was doing. I thought getting drunk and kicking it on the weekends was the life. You know, that's how you supposed to live. I went to work.
When was that not enough though? When you say this ain't enough, I need to graduate?
When I went to swing back at my mother and she pulled that pistol on me.
Wow. Yeah.
So I had to pretty much self-medicate because now I see you don't care about me. You don't love me. You put a gun on me, you know.
What, threaten you to get out of her house or something?
I'll take you out of here, period.
You know the famous quote?
Yeah. I brung you in here, I'll take you out.
What did you do what did you do or she perceived that
I told her the truth. You taking it out on me. You the one that dealt with all the abuse. I didn't beat you.
It finally came to a head and you had words.
Yeah. And
she got angry because she couldn't handle the emotion and pulled a pistol on you?
Yeah.
Your mom pulled a pistol on you. Man, that'll twist anybody up, man. We had a guy on here, his father shot him in the face.
My own cousin.
Shot him in the face. His own father. So it's real out here, you know. You know, and so are you still angry at your mom or have you made amends or what?
We made amends when I went to the joint. When I first went to the joint, and I guess we're gonna get to that point where I went through abuse myself, and ended up having to kill my abuser. And I said, well, this is a perfect time for me to make amends with my mother too. You know, I wrote her about 46 times.
Your mother knew you were on the drugs?
Oh, yeah.
Was she ever on that stuff?
So she couldn't determine it in the beginning, but after a while, I remember my mother sitting next to me, like, "Look at your cheeks; they just sucking in. Like, what is you gonna do with yourself?" You know. Yeah. It hurt me, but the only thing I knew how to do was self-medicate because you never been on drugs, so you can't really guide me up out of here. Like she called people for help. You know, a couple friends she went to school with were now counselors. So she's calling them in and asking them, what can we do? And they put me in these rehabs and psych wards. Because back then they wasn't hip to it. They didn't know that this
So all along, you in this rehabs and psych wards, but you really know the truth.
I don't know. The thing is with rehabilitation, if you don't get to the core of the problem, the reason why you started in the first place, you ain't never going to solve it. You ain't never going to solve it.
And you obviously solved it. Which means you got to the root
Right.
And I'm gonna get to your physical abuse, but what was the root?
A lot of pain and a lot of things I didn't understand. And like for me now, I'm a sponge, So if I don't know something, I'm gonna research it. But back then, we didn't have internet. We didn't have all these things. So you just sitting there with the dire need to learn something, and nobody's telling you, or you don't know how to ask for the information.
While you were in your sickness of addiction, did you have to parade your body?
I've done several things, but I met a guy who told me I didn't have to go there. So we ended up getting together for a few years. And he showed me, why you sitting there smoking dope? You could be making money too. Why go and give it to other people when you can make your own? So now my addiction is getting high and making money.
All right, we back. Playa T, that's me, Hollywood in the hood. I'm right here with domestic violence survivor, author, entrepreneur right here, Runako Stroud. Yeah. Now, Runako, before we went to the break, you were speaking about how you met someone that eventually turned into your personal abuser. No?
That one was good to me.
Okay, this guy was good to you.
Yeah.
This the guy that told you, you don't have to be in the streets. You shouldn't be doing this. You're a beautiful woman. What'd he say? Come with me?
He just put me up on game and let me know that it ain't what you do, it's how you do it. Not trying to glorify smoking dope, but he was telling me, when you get you a gram, get you this, you get you that, cut it in half, sell it back. And then you can enjoy yourself, and you made your money back. So I'm busy flipping. So right, I picked up that trade, and later on down the line.
Did your addiction get worse?
Yeah, because I was my own.
Yeah, that sounded like good advice. It sounded good. It sounded real good.
I was my own best customer. But he kept me spoiled because he was my connect.
Okay.
So it didn't matter.
He was the connect. Okay, so now the game is exposed.
Right.
We see how Gorilla Mackin' and Gorilla Pimpin' go. Okay? We now know what Project Pat was all about when he was talking about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. And so what ended up happening with this guy?
I ended up getting 11 counts of aggravated drug trafficking.
Working for him, moving for him? No?
And we just separated. We fell off, and once I did 18 months hard time in Trumbull County Jail.
And that's before
all the other stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was terrible. But I got out. He made sure he put me up in a hotel because I had lost my place, And
the same guy. You got back with him.
I tried. He got back with his wife, so but he still stood his ground and said when I got out he was gonna look out for me, and he did.
He kept it 100, kept it solid with you.
Long as I stayed sober.
I like this guy. What's his name?
Earl Taylor.
Earl Taylor. Earl the Pearl.
Senior.
Earl the Pearl. He sounds like a real player out there. Earl a real player out there. Earl a real player about his. I like Earl. Okay, Earl.
What you want to do, baby?
Yeah.
That's so silly.
All right. So, okay. So now, Runako, fast forward to your unfortunate demise with the guy that you had to teach him a lesson. Tell me about that.
Well, prior to that situation, I was in the streets. I'm in a whole different city, whole different everything. This is years later. Children's Services told me that I was an unfit mother.
How many children did you have when they told you that?
My 2 boys, D'Angelo and Logan. And they took my kids away from me. As a matter of fact, I think I was locked up then too. And they took my kids away from me, called me an unfit mother, and put my sons in foster care. A couple months later.
Tore you apart. that tore you up inside?
Oh, yeah. I was already contemplating getting myself together, working with the caseworkers, stuff like that. But for you to just go ahead and say, well, we can't keep them no longer while you're incarcerated, we're going to have to put them up for adoption. And this is in Trumbull County, so it's public record, and my son's father seen that they were getting ready to put his son up for adoption. My other son wasn't his biological son. So what happened is I didn't want my two boys separated. So put them in foster care together, but don't give them to him. He got domestic violence issues. He's a drunk. You know what I'm saying? Children's Services went on and did it anyway.
Put him in his custody.
They started visitation with him with my other son so he can get to know him. 2 weeks later, they were moving my other son in with this man. 2 months later, he beat my 4-year-old to death. Yeah, after I told him, don't do it.
So, Runako, with that right there happening, your 4-year-old being beaten to death after you, and reached out to them and said not to do this, did you go after them for any legal justification?
What is it, the wake or whatever? So a guy walked up to me. I was ignorant to it. And the guy walked up to me and was like, we need to go after Children's Services. We need to get you paid. And the pastor who was doing the service said money ain't gonna get her son back. And me listening to a pastor, because right now I need God, I didn't follow suit.
Yeah, well, man, that probably was just as bad, because that was wrong. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to, you explained to them. You knew the guy. They didn't know the guy. Mm-hmm. You knew the guy. I had a child by him. I know him. You know him. But why do you think they disregarded your word?
Because it's a word of an addict.
So we need to speak to. I'm glad you brought that up, Runako, because that's important. Like you social workers out there, you people that's in charge of stuff like this, y'all really need to dig into these people's lives and really speak to them and get past the initial dealings that you're dealing with them, because they're still people, they're still human beings. Right. And that's terrible. And so what happened to the guy?
He was sentenced to 15 years to life. Mm-hmm.
For killing a 4-year-old baby? Mm-hmm. 15 years to life?
Yeah.
That's it? Okay.
So he's still in Trumbull County Jail. Trumbull County Correctional Facility. And that's where he's been since 2003. He's tried to commit suicide. Got a bad heart, like all the karma.
Did it tear you down inside, when your baby died at his hands?
Oh, I had a whole nervous breakdown.
You had a whole nervous breakdown?
A whole
wow,
nervous breakdown.
You done been through so much, and look at you so strong now.
Yeah.
Ha!
You know what I mean?
Ah!
I signed myself into the psych ward after this situation happened, where I stayed for about...
You signed yourself. You know how strong you got to be to sign yourself into a psych ward? Because I would think normally you'd be trying to trick yourself out of, thinking that you ain't crazy. I'm good. What? I'm all right. No, you're not all right.
Oh, I knew if I didn't go that I was subject to hurt somebody else, so...
Your anger is building up. You have all kind of underlying issues building up underneath.
And you got people out there, while I'm trying to self-medicate and not feel no pain, I'm passing stuff out, passing dope. I saw everybody's in my face, everybody's my friend until it's gone.
Yeah.
Which is where I led to kicking it with this guy for about 2 years. And in between that, we fought and stuff, you know what I mean, before my son was murdered. After my son was murdered, it seemed to me that he took advantage of my mourning, the passing stuff out, the getting money, the not tolerating nothing from nobody. So if you didn't give me my money, I was taking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, in the end, before the situation happened, he told me, we got into a fight, and he told me, this time you're not getting up. This time you're not surviving this fight. You know what I mean? And this is after all the times the police were called, with me and him fighting. You know what I mean? Police reports were made. This last day, when he looked me in my eyes and said that, I believed him. So we fought for about maybe 4 minutes. I broke his nose. He's like, oh, bitch, I'm getting ready to kill you. And before he could pull his knife all the way out, all I seen was silver. By that time, I already stuck him. You know.
Yeah.
I spook it in the head.
You already had a knife.
I still do that.
Because you're in fear of him.
I'm my daddy's daughter.
Yeah.
I've been like that all my life, carrying something.
So he lunged at you.
And I stuck him one time in the heart, and he died.
Okay, and so what did you immediately do? Did you run and leave the scene?
I did.
You did? And what, police had to catch up with you days later?
I came back while the detectives were picking him off the ground.
You came back to the scene of the crime?
I stood with the crowd.
Yeah, I did it.
That's exactly.
That's it. Yeah, I did it.
No,
he shouldn't have did me like that.
My thing was, I felt like the world was already against me. You know what I'm saying? High or sober, they already against me because I'm judged when I walked in the door. You know what I'm saying? So before I let y'all shoot me through, I'm going to shoot myself through. You don't have no strings attached to this case. You can't say nothing. So I told the officer, I stood right next to him and said, I'm the one that stabbed him. So they put me in the police car. I flipped out. You know, I pretty much had an out-of-body experience. I seen everything as if I was watching it, like even me. Looking at myself in the police car, like it was an out-of-body experience.
And what were you thinking at that time, looking at this out-of-body experience?
It wasn't. I felt God the whole time.
Like, what do you mean by that?
All the way through.
You felt protected? You felt it was going to be all right? You felt what?
It was like his hand on me. I just, all the way through, even up to my sentencing. Literally, when she sentenced me to 10 years, it felt like this part of my body down here was gone. Like I just was hovering in front of the judge.
Well, because you felt like, hey, I defended myself. Was it?
It was real.
What,
it's real.
Was it because you felt like, hey, I had to do what hey, judge me if you want to, but I'm alive?
They had me in a paper gown for about a week. When I first went to my preliminary hearing, the video arraignment, I didn't even know he was dead. Nobody told me.
Oh, you know.
So when they said aggravated murder, I was like, who? Y'all mixed y'all paperwork. Y'all mixed y'all paperwork up.
Yeah,
I ain't killed nobody.
Right. They like, ma'am.
The officer had to come in and tell me, be quiet, because the judge told me somebody go in there and talk to her. I said, I ain't killed nobody. The officer was like, he didn't make it. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
Felt like Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy.
Now, and your original sentence was 10 years?
They were trying to give me 15 to 33.
They were trying to give you, but you got a sentence with 10.
Mm-hmm.
But we were having conversations before you came on, and soon as you got the work in there. You got the fighting your case, other people's cases?
Yes. I went in there, and, you know, at some point you got to realize where your bottom is. That right there was my bottom, because I done hit several bottoms, but it was still more room down here. You know what I mean? But this was it. That was it, you know. So when I got to Marysville, even before Marysville, in the county, I started, you know, everybody do the counseling sessions and stuff in there. Get certificates and stuff. But when I got to Marysville, I did pretty much every program that applied to me and some that didn't. I took computer repair class, cosmetology. I was involved in talent shows. I wrote plays.
Now, even while you were in prison, you had people encouraging you to write about your experience.
Oh yeah. My one of my bunkies, was like, you need to start writing down some of the things. And as I was writing, I would read it to her.
Yeah.
She said, that sounds like poetry. So as I started fixing it and forming it and changing words around it, and it became poetry. She's like, girl, you got a story.
So the book is all poetic?
No. In between the book, there's I slid in some pieces of poetry that applied to a chapter.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So for like the first part with my mom and dad fighting and the domestic violence, I put a piece of poetry in there as if my mother was saying it.
Right. I want y'all to listen to the back of this. This book is based on a true story of a young woman who experienced more than her share of life's heartaches and trials. She slowly became aware of God's presence in her life. Runako Stroud truly believes that God can bring you out of anything that comes your way. The street life thought it would get the best of her, but God had other plans. Runako went through a lot of tragedy in her life, including drugs, murder of her child, prison, deceit, and betrayal, but it all brought her to truth. Now, Runako, you also work with children?
Yes, I've Doreen Burtz from Life's Obstacles. Yeah, shout out to Doreen. She, when she heard my story, she got me on WOVU radio show, and I did an interview with them twice. And from there, she caused me to go into the schools. I went to Mount Elementary, spoke to the children.
How do the children receive you and your story?
Oh my, they still call me. This was like 6 months
They
ago.
probably call you auntie and everything. Auntie!
Yeah, when you come in, when the coronavirus over, you want to come see me?
Yeah.
They love me. I also went to John Adams and spoke in the schools, to the cheerleaders, actually.
If somebody want to patronize you and get your book, how can they reach you?
They can contact me on Facebook, DM me on Instagram, and you can purchase
What is
my
your
book
Instagram? Give me your Instagram so they can go
my
to it.
name, Runako Stroud.
Okay.
Or you can purchase it from Amazon or Walmart. I'm doing big things with Walmart.
Doing big things. Yeah, well, we really appreciate you, Runako, for coming on board. You know what I mean? Y'all get the book, you know what I mean? And bring this woman out for speaking engagements. She's available. You know what I mean? Play it.